Well, hi, hello, and how are you doing out there in internet land? My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative, and welcome back to another session of Chatting on the Porch. You didn't know you'd have quite this much conversation in a week on this channel. But yes, we're doing our best to bring it to you, the wonderful members of Fedora Nation. We're so glad you are here tonight. Glad to have y'all in the house. I've got two of my favorite people who are coming back on here, or maybe it's better to say two of the people still willing to associate with me. But anyway, welcome in. We are on Rumble, we are on Twitter, and we are on that quaint little alternative social media platform known as YouTube. So if you haven't done it yet, send the message out to your friends. Give them the link to the live stream. Tell them to get in here. Tell them to bring some more people, because we're not only going to laugh, we're going to illuminate. We're going to help educate. We're going to style and profile. And to be the men and the women, you got to be the men and the women. So there you go. All right. Let us see who is here real quick, and we're going to say hello to some folks. Oh, my Lord, Clancy, you Australian son of a gun, you. I haven't seen you in so long. Well, you don't have to apologize for Shawn. I mean, everybody knows how he is. Okay, I haven't introduced him yet. He may leave now. But good to have you here, brother. And a fist bump to you, my friend. What else are you saying? I need to get you to stop talking. Talking about having you on the show and actually do it. I'm sorry for not being organized. Hopefully it'll be next fortnight. All right, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. And we'll find a way to make this happen, sir. All right, who's on the Rumble side? Mom's Mystery and Mayhem is here. Hello, hello, hello. Jay Christman is here. A few others are starting to settle in. Glad to have you guys here tonight. Again, if you don't know who I am, I'm Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. I am sometimes known as the fine fella in the fedora. On occasion, I'm referred to as the, well, what else do they refer to me as? I don't know. It's all crazy. It's 9 o'clock at night. I'm up past my bedtime. Anyway, let's get down to business. I'm going to bring on my two guests because we have a limited amount of time. We got about an hour, and I want to get into so many different things. As y'all recently know, there was an election in the Great North up in there in Canada, and results didn't quite go the way people expected in more ways than one. And I've got a bunch of questions, and I'm sure y'all do. And I got two of the best people to get into this discussion with. He is a creator in his own right. He is a madman. He's a true representative of the Canadian people. And he's even dressed as a Canadian should be tonight. Kelly, don't take that personally, because, you know, we love the way you look. Anyway, please help me welcome the proprietor of the Third Railify channel on Rumble and on YouTube, Mr. Shawn. Shawn, how you doing tonight?
Hello, my little ducklings. How are you guys doing today? I am in proper Canadian attire, the way God intended, and you know, it beats my house coat that I wear all the time.
Well, but I'm sure before this live stream is over, you're going to break out the leopard print. So that's the part that kind of everybody's looking forward to, but is scaring everyone all the same. Oh, there it is, baby, there it is. I knew he's going to do it. I knew he's going to do it.
Now that we're broaching, you know, the warm weather, my dear wife has this house in you know, it's a refrigerated state. Basically, it's quite chilly here, and so I have to stay warm somehow.
Oh, don't blame that on your wife. You live in Canada. There's no such thing as a warm day up there. I mean, who are you kidding?
There's 1 or 2 in July sometime.
Okay, all right, July maybe. All right. And with that, let me also bring on our next guest. She is formerly of Rebel News. She is also a content creator in her own right. She is probably one of the, outside of Shawn and a handful of other people in the Great North, one of the great voices of reason and sanity in a country that's quickly going insane. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back the ever lovely and totally gracious Miss Kelly Lamb. Kelly, how you doing tonight, dear?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. How are you doing?
Oh, you know me. I'm just working and living the dream. God help me. Oh, boy, God help me. All right. Let's dive right in, because I know we've got a limited amount of time, and I know you guys have got any number of thoughts you wish to express in any number of different languages, depending on how you like to swear. Well, you may be swearing in French, so, you know, which either could be good or bad. YouTube won't catch on to what's going on because they're racist and they only know how to speak English. Anyway, okay. One of the last times we met, Mr. Shawn was dropping statistics and all kinds of stuff and saying, man, the Conservative Party, they're going to pick up seats. It's looking like a rout. This thing's going to get ugly. And then what does Fidel Trudeau do? I mean, what's his name do? Fidel's son Trudeau. He drops out of the race. The Liberal Party elects Mark Carney on a vote of about 130,000 members of the Liberal Party out of a nation of 26 million. And
Something
then he
like that.
election. Now, I've got the results, and if these numbers are off, y'all set me straight. This is from Wikipedia, and I want to pop this up here real fast. After the results of the election the other night, according to what I've got, the Liberal Party picked up about 16 seats, finished with 168. Oh, whoa, that's better. The Conservatives, led by Pierre Lepew Poliev, and boy, did he really live up to his name, because he stunk up his election, but we'll get to that in a minute. The Conservatives actually picked up more seats than the Liberals. They got 24, but they wound up with 144. Now, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, because you know your country way better than I do. As I understand it, it takes about 174 seats in your House of Commons for an out-and-out majority, which means
172.
172.
172. 172. See, folks, this is why I have them on here.
Which is more than what it used to, because Trudeau brought in many illegals. Our population has skyrocketed, so we needed more ridings, which meant more members of parliament. You know, much like California.
Oh yes, yes. Would you guys like to buy California? We'll sell to
chisel it off and send it into the ocean, if you don't mind.
You know,
yeah,
Lex
we're really
Luthor,
just California, but colder. Like, we're the same. You guys have nicer scenery in some ways, but we're just all losing our minds. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
You know, I was about to say, I think that Lex Luthor had it right in the very first Superman movie. Drop a couple of nukes on the San Andreas Fault. Let that sucker just slide on out into the Pacific. Just let it go. But they don't have the Liberal Party doesn't have a majority, but they've got the most seats. So you're going to have a coalition government. Now, let me start off by asking you guys, as you follow this stuff, you know, way better than I do, but I, you know, like everybody in my audience, wants to be informed of what's going on. Who is most likely to align with the Liberal Party as a voting bloc in your House of Commons, so that Carney, the newly elected, the out elected Prime Minister now of Canada, that he's going to have a working majority? Who are they going to align themselves with? Because the New Democrat Party went in the toilet, from what I understand. They got cleaned on election night. Barely any seats left at all. And obviously Maxime Bernier, old Mad Max, ain't going to help anybody. He got voted out of the parliament. So who does the Liberal Party and Carney align with?
Well, there's a few NDP seats, but as you said, the party got decimated, which is interesting. A lot of people don't like Singh. So part of it was just people were sick of him, and he's a total hypocrite. So that's not surprising. But also people were so scared of Pierre, who apparently is our version of Trump, which I find fascinating, because he's nothing like Trump at all. He's center right at most, centrist on most points. So people were so scared by Orange Man that they just decided to hold their nose and vote Liberal, even if they're NDPers. So yeah, there is a few NDP seats, and you know, there's been rumblings of, are they going to join up, and how's that all going to go? Are they going to take it over? And then there's the discussion of the Bloc Québécois, but I don't think they really like Carney too much either. So yeah, it could be interesting. But yeah, as it stands, we have a minority government, is what they call it. So
okay, Shawn, you got any thoughts on this?
Okay, so we have one Green Party seat,
right.
Elizabeth May. She's a cantankerous old bird and a socialist. And
well, don't hold back. Tell me what you really think of the woman.
Oh, worst. One of the worst. Envision for a moment. AOC, but white and what, like 70 years old? That's basically.
Yeah, and kind of maybe a bit of a lush.
Yeah,
So.
like Yeah.
Oh, she's my kind of politician already.
So there's the rumors that she may join the Liberal Party so she can have a cabinet seat.
Okay.
That will move Liberals to 169.
Okay.
And then you absolutely know that the New Democrats, again, socialists, 100% are going to make some sort of deal and try and squeeze as much power from the Liberals as they can, much in the way that Jagmeet Singh did. I mean, he got blown out of the water, but he doesn't necessarily care. He's extremely
He got his
wealthy, and he
pension.
got his pension.
He got
Wait
his
a minute.
pension.
Sing didn't make it back into the parliament?
He got annihilated.
Yeah,
Yes!
annihilated. But he just wanted his pension. That's always been the theory, that he was just hanging on as long as he had to for that bare minimum, because we really should have had an election a while ago, but he was just hanging on for that pension, and now he's golden. He doesn't have to do anything and he gets paid forever. So
He lost by 24.1% of the margin. He lost by a quarter of all of the votes.
Wow. That's what you call good old-fashioned ass kicking.
Yeah.
Well, now, speaking of losing, and I wasn't going to bring this up, but since we sort of swerved into it, Pierre Le Pew Polyev. I got a historical comparison down here in the States. Back in 1994, when the Republicans took control of the House for the first time in 40 years, the Speaker of the House was a Democrat from Washington State named Tom Foley. This guy was an old school institutionalist, and he got taken out by a no-name nobody. And it shocked, I mean, the whole election in 94 shocked everybody anyway. But the fact that the Speaker of the House got taken out shocked everybody even more. Now, that brings me back to Pierre Le Pew. Here's a man who you could have made an argument was probably the best thing the Conservative Party had for years by way of an electoral representative. And the irony of it is, and I've heard this statistic, and stop me if I'm wrong, I heard that in your election that night, the Conservative Party got its largest share of the vote since the 1980s under then Brian Mulroney. Mm-hmm. So the Conservative Party got the largest share of vote they've ever had in like going on 50 years. And the guy leading the Conservative Party loses his seat in the House of Commons. I mean, what kind of among people who are supporters of the Conservative Party up in Canada, when that result came down, was there shock? Was there, he kind of got what he had coming? I mean, what kind of reaction did people have when they found out that Pierre Polyev lost his seat?
Shock.
Who's
I had
going
shock.
first? Yeah, I was shocked.
Absolute shock, but not just shock. Absolute. Is recrimination the right word? Just I'm like pissed, like genuinely so. Like if you don't mind sharing my screen for a moment here. So we have the writing of Carlton. That's Polyev's writing.
Well, if I can get this to do it.
And so for the American viewers, imagine you have a ticket, and it's your Republican, it's your Democrat, maybe you have an independent, but for some reason you have another independent, and then another independent, and another independent, and that goes on for 91 names. And a lot of them are just random names, and many of them have 10, 20, 7, 15, whatever, 30, 40, 50 names attached, and 91. So there was a real concerted effort for some reason to get Polyev out. Now people are saying, oh well, this was done as a point about the first past the post system. You know, this was this thing was a protest, and it's like, okay, great. I understand your protest, but why did you only protest in Poilievre's riding? Why didn't you also do that in Jugmeat's riding, or Mark's riding, or any of the other ridings? You did your protest only in one. It's very suspicious. And
now, hold on. Number one, do me a favor. Send me that link to that you're trying to get me to set up. Send it to me in private chat, and I can throw it up because I'm having trouble doing it the other. Now, secondly, you use the term riding, so just for the sake of translation, a riding would be the same thing as what we call a congressional district down here. A riding is basically your version of a district.
Yeah.
In other words, he's from the Quebec. He's from the
Ottawa Carleton riding.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Does it really, Kelly? Does it go back to horse racing? Is that the thing?
Can't remember the history,
but yeah, it's horse racing involved. But yeah, it's
basically a region. It's not, it's a huge metropolitan.
There it is.
Setting.
There it goes. Finally.
All right. Now click on Poilievre. If you click, I don't know, click on his face or whatever.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Right. No. All right. So it's my screen share. Okay, great. So, and the top one is Bruce Fanjoy. He's a Liberal. He wins 49,000 votes. He gets 50.8% of the vote. Pierre Poilievre gets 45. But then the NDP and the Green. So these are the four that you would expect. Sometimes you might get 5 because you get some stupid party like this that thinks, oh, I'm in with a shout, I promise. But then you just keep going down and down and down and down. Why the hell are there so many independent?
It was ridiculous.
This goes on for 91 names. And on the ballot's like 7 miles long and it's alphabetical. So Poilievre is somewhere vaguely in the middle.
Oh, okay. Okay. They did this to screw him.
Vaguely in the middle. Fanjoy is, well, I mean, sure, he's not exactly at the top, but much closer to the top than like it's bullshit is basically what is what happened.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now, so you've got basically a minority government for maybe the first time in a while in Canada. There will be some kind of alignment that lets Carney have a working majority. Now, let me ask you this. Everybody who follows this channel or just, most of Fedora Nation is very well informed, particularly people. I've got listeners in Michigan and various other states up north, Minnesota, and etc. So they got a pretty good idea what goes on across the border in y'all's country. And more particularly, that means they understand what Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party has been doing to Canada for years. Now you have a changing of the guard. And with any election, there's always the temptation on the part of the victors to think that they have a bigger mandate to allow them to do things that they otherwise may not have campaigned on. They're like, hey, we won the election and look the margins we won by and yada, yada, yada. What is Carney telling? I mean, I understand he's holding a press conference tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. It's his first press availability since the election night. Has Carney or anybody associated with the Liberal Party come out and said, hey, this is what, we're wanting to do. This is the vision that we have for Canada. Or is it more like, okay, well, we've had the election. Let's go back to business as usual. I mean, Kelly, where is the Liberal Party under Carney going from here?
Well, it's interesting because as you watch the debates and as you watch him go across the country speaking about what he wants to do. So the first thing he does is he does what Pierre said he was going to do, which is he axes the tax. In other words, he cut the carbon tax, but he didn't really cut it, right? It's all just going to get squished back into industry and it'll still end up landing on the consumer, but it's not officially a carbon tax that we see in the way we see it now. So he does that as some sort of a show of, I guess, good faith, but it's all bollocks because the guy is he's, very eco-minded, so to speak. He's written a book. He's very pro carbon tax, carbon punishment, I would call it. And we know it's just going to come back. So it was just a ploy, right? And all of a sudden they went from saying, oh, you're going to save a bunch of money by getting this rebate to, oh, look how much money we saved you by cutting the tax. So just, that's kind of how it all began. And then he starts talking about the Trump stuff. And it basically built on, I'm the guy to go up against Trump. I'm the guy that's going to unite Canada. We need strong leadership, and Pierre isn't going to be that guy. So he really just pushed that side of things, talked about, of course, how Pierre was just so terrible, lots of smearing and that kind of thing. And then he just would continuously deny or deflect, which is a classic Liberal tactic. They do not answer questions they don't like, period. Full stop. Doesn't matter who's in charge. So constantly it would be brought up to him because he'd say, I'm not Trudeau. I'm not Trudeau. Stop calling me Trudeau. He was Trudeau's financial advisor. So much of what happened in the Liberal government prior to him taking over was still being shifted by him. And so we know, based on his past in Britain, we know based on his past with the party, we know who he is. He's written a book. He's told us who he is. He hasn't said a lot of it. He makes it sound like he's going to be so gracious and work with everybody. But at the end of the day, we're all fully aware that this is just the Liberal Party. Like, nothing's actually going to change. He's still extremely woke and progressive on the social side. He's making himself sound like more of a free market guy, sort of, but he's not, right? He's saying, oh, we're going to push oil and gas, we're going to get back in, and we're going to do it all and still be eco-friendly. We're still going to consult with First Nations. He's going to do it all. He's going to be perfect. Meanwhile, he's not. Again, when people said, will you repeal Bill C-69, which is a hugely important piece of legislation that essentially stifles all oil and gas pipelines and any kind of furthering of that industry across the nation, which is awful. We have a huge social system, right? We have a big safety network here, whether it's our healthcare, all our other social services. You can't fund this stuff without money. And we have money coming in from our industry, from our resources. So these bills are stifling resource extraction. And he's saying, no, we're going to do this all. We're going to have this strong free market, but he won't commit to getting rid of that. He also is not going to repeal any of the gun legislation. So that's something else, of course, that's just going to keep going as they just keep adding and adding and adding to the list of banned firearms. So he hasn't really come out and full force. Like, when Trump got in, he basically said, here's what I'm going to do on day one. And he just got to work signing stuff. It wasn't like that. But he has been, if you pay attention, he's been very clear on who he is. He's been very clear on who he isn't. And all the bigger questions, he just doesn't answer. So I feel like he might as well be Trudeau. The only difference is he's a little smoother in his speech and a little less insufferable to listen to. And I want to vomit slightly less when I listen to Carney, but that doesn't mean that he's better. He's worse in that he's actually smarter than Trudeau. And so he can push this all through. And now that we have the NDP decimated and they're going to go along with him, it's really disheartening. I was actually pretty emotional the night of the election. I wasn't like, the meme of the chick screaming no at Trump. I wasn't that girl, and I'm not going to go on TikTok and cry about it, but I am pretty defeated. Like, this is bad news. And these people that voted for him have just completely ruined their own lives, and they don't even seem to care. It's wild. So yeah, will anything change? No, it's just the Liberals. Nothing is changing. It's the same stuff, different person, basically.
All right, Shawn's over there like a golfer on the green. He's ready to tee off. So go ahead, brother.
It's really illuminating how dumb we are as a populace. We're dumb, genuinely so. We're a bunch of fucking retards, 100%. Because Trudeau was out there for the last decade. Canada is a post-national state with no core identity. We're just a bunch of ethnicities put together, and we don't mean anything really. Canada is just a landmass that has a government. There's no culture, so whatever. I mean, that's kind of a really shitty thing to say. But then he's like, oh, just the moment that the tariffs happen. That moment, it's all of a sudden this faux patriotism. And listen, I've been patriotic my entire life, but when that started to happen, I've never been more disgusted at the idea of being a patriotic Canadian.
It was embarrassing, wasn't it?
It was. So embarrassing. Then all of a sudden, Mark Carney's doing the same thing, and it's just like, oh, I'm going to be tough on Trump. We're going to elbows up. Like a bunch of fucking morons is elbows up bullshit. Like, Jesus, not only do you look stupid, it doesn't make sense. Fucking a hockey term. If you elbow somebody in the face.
Wait. Wait a minute, hold on. I know why y'all came up with elbows up. You've still been mad at America ever since the 90s when we invented the Macarena. Okay, y'all been trying to come up with a dance move for 30 years to get even with us, and you finally figured out how to do it with the elbows up thing. That's exactly what y'all doing.
Macarena is a very sad song about a guy whose girlfriend banged a bunch of other dudes, and he's very sad about it.
I did not know that.
I've never thought about it.
It
I'm
is
usually a lyrics
horrendous
girl. I am a musician. I pay attention.
The girl's
I didn't
name is I think the girl's name is Macarena, and she bangs all of his friends, and he's desperately sad. And we teach kids to
That's
dance to that at
awful,
school.
actually.
Really? What the fuck's the matter with us?
I'll never hear it the same way again.
Right. Anyways, the point is, he's like elbows up, and so yeah, conservative youth came out in the fucking masses. Excellent, except you had a bunch of boomers that are like, well, we know better than you. These are the same people that pulled they went up the social ladder. They got the fucking houses, the careers, the boats, the fucking pools. They got all the shit, and then they pulled the ladder up behind them. And then finally, the youth come out to vote to actually try to shape the country in a way that they feel will benefit. And then boomers fuck them again.
It's so sad. We finally got some conservatives, young ones. Yeah. And for what?
Like, all we did is basically tell the kids, well, kids, listen, we just have to wait for your father or your grandfather or your mother, your grandmother to die. And then maybe your voice will actually mean something. We have to kill off the old people, figuratively. You know what I mean? Like that's all we did. But the whole elbows up thing, I'm going to be so tough on Trump. Well, we can't because, America, that's a $27 trillion economy. And Canada is like, what, 1 and a bit trillion? We're the smallest, the weakest, the most pathetic in the G7. We think we have a fucking chance against tariffs? I mean, sure. We have like 300% tariffs on milk and eggs and poultry and shit. Who gives a fuck? But when it comes to everything else about that, I mean, we can't fight against America. It's kind of stupid to try. So Trump says fix the borders. We fix the borders. Trump says, hey, I don't want fentanyl to come in. We stop the fentanyl from coming in. If Trump says If Trump says, I would like you to make your fucking flag whatever color, unfortunately, we have to do it. But Mark Carney, he's like, oh, no, listen, we're going to fight. We're going to elbows up. We're going to do an illegal fucking hockey move to America. Well, we're not, because all of a sudden Carney calls up Trump and it's like, hey, we're going to make a deal.
And Trump's like, what a nice man he is. He's the nicest to me of any of you. What's going on?
Now, I got one of my listeners asked this in the chat, and I'm going to put this up here because you guys have already been touching on it, but I almost guarantee I know the answer just for the sake of fairness. I've wondered if Trump talking about the 51st state spooked potential Pierre voters. I mean, Shawn, I'll throw that to you first. I mean, how much did Trump, yes, Carney, from a political standpoint, utilized his foil, Trump, very effectively. Look, I may dislike Carney. I may think he's a scumbag. And I do, believe me, I feel for y'all up there in the great north. But how much did Trump, because some people are even theorizing Trump was playing some kind of weird 4D chess. Like, I don't want to deal with Polyev. He's a pain in the rear end. Give me Carney. At least this guy knows what the hell he's doing. I may not agree with him. But how much did Trump cost the conservatives a chance at winning an out-and-out majority?
So you can kind of look at this two ways, and one way is probably more correct than the other. The first way is, Trump fucked us bad, but then the other way is Polyev didn't rise to the occasion. He just didn't. Yes. Trump sort of threw out this scenario, and he did not. Polyev did not make the most of it. He became just another liberal. He didn't stand out from Trudeau. He didn't stand out from Carney. He didn't stand out from even the NDP. They were all fucking the same. Whatever blue and red and orange color make, well, probably brown or some shit. That's what it all was. Brown, like shit. Like there's no difference. So why vote for the conservative? Why if they're just the same as liberal? I had a conservative fella who I don't know, he was part of the team for my riding. He on election day he pulled up in his fancy car and he had one of those door hangers, and I just been happen to be on my front step catching the few minutes of sun that this white complexion can actually handle. And then so I had asked him.
You have sun in Canada? What?
Brief
Occasionally, yeah.
seconds. And then so I asked him, I'm like, so how you guys doing? What do you think? It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna win and blah 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 blah. He was referring to him and his team. And I was like, okay, great. But how are you guys doing? And then he's like, oh yeah, he understanding what I meant. And then he's like, oh, it's gonna be close. It's gonna be close. And then he's like, well, what do you think? I'm like, oh, buddy. And then so I was like, well, Polyev has fucked this. He's fucked it up bad because he had an opportunity to be Trump. And he went the diametrically opposed way. He had the opportunity to say, yeah, the illegal immigration, it stops. The people that are here illegally, gone. The fact that we have all of these protests in all the cities about Gaza and shit, stop them. Just all the rising crime, done. Like, I mean, he had an opportunity to sort of, even Trump said today that the guy who was more anti-Trump is the guy that lost. The guy who was more pro-Trump, which is apparently Carney was, is the guy that won. So yeah, Polyev, he played the whole thing wrong. So some people blame Trump. I think Trump just presented an opportunity that Polyev sort of walked away from.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, let me do a real quick commercial for everybody, myself included, since I'm the host. If you have come upon this live stream and you see these three wonderful people, beautiful in the case of Kelly, handsome in the case of Shawn and I, well, you have found your way to Chattin On The Porch, which is hosted by moi, the Front Porch Conservative. I have got a channel on YouTube, on Rumble, and I sometimes hang out on Twitter. So if you're not subscribed to my channel, help me out. That, rugged-looking Canadian over there on the far end there in the trucker cap, he's got a channel on Rumble and on YouTube under Third Railify. And this young lady, this young lady over here, not quite back in the social media game, but we're trying to, pull her back over to the dark side. So help us all out. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to our channels. Go crazy, y'all. We love you. All right. Kelly, I got to ask you, let's go back to Pierre Le Pew Polyev for a moment. And yes, Le Pew is about right. Okay. He's gone. Yeah. Lost his seat. And you guys follow this stuff better than I do. So soon, the House of Commons in Canada will convene. Who's going to lead the Conservatives now? Or is Pierre Le Pew Polyev going to find his way to weasel his way back into Parliament again? But I mean, let's assume he doesn't. Because frankly, if I were the Conservatives in Canada, I wouldn't want the guy leading us. Because I agree with Shawn's interpretation. He had a chance to be bold, red and white Canada here. Instead, he was kind of like pastel, mauve, whatever is, who leads the Conservatives now going forward, do you think?
I mean, they could theoretically keep him if they really wanted. As you said, he at the beginning was getting decent polling and seemed relatively relatable and likable. He had the origin story that was decent, hardworking family, adopted, et cetera, and it was going okay. But as you said, Shawn, and have implied, is basically he dropped the ball. He had this opportunity. Yes, Trump, I do wish Trump had shut his mouth until after the election. Absolutely, I wish that he had. However, he didn't. And so given that, you get a wrench thrown in, you got to work with it. You got to be quick on your feet in politics and you got to move with the times. And he didn't. He had this opportunity. My husband and I would be listening to him at his various rallies, and we would just be rolling our eyes with the recycled slogans. And yes, the same approach to Trump as everyone else took, which is a passive aggressive smug approach. It's a very Canadian thing to do. Mm-hmm. We are more moral, we are more intellectual. Oh, we're horrible. Like, we say that they're so arrogant in the States, but we are just as bad, except it's in a different way. So he kind of pulled that, the Americans only do what's right when they have to, which I think is a Churchill quote, maybe, that kind of thing. So he pulled the same rhetoric, but because he just didn't have a lot else to fall back on, and he was lacking any direction after that happened, it just ultimately went to the Liberals. So those who are really conservative would have still voted for him, but anybody who was kind of on the fence, because he was bound to get some of the sort of centrist votes, the younger people votes, and then I think that's where it all went awry. So Should he lead the party? Probably not. Will they have him put into another riding and take over? Maybe. Yeah, he was their best one in however many years, but that's not saying much. The bar was set really low. I mean,
Yeah.
we had in 2019 and beyond, there was Andrew Scheer, there was O'Toole. These were very milquetoast leaders. Yeah, very milquetoast leaders. It's part of why I ran for politics in 2019, was to provide an alternative to that lame sauce party and the lack of insight and the lack of inspiration and just the weakness that is inherent in standing up to the fear of the media, the fear of being called names that they're going to get called no matter what they do anyway. I mean, if Pierre was being compared to Trump, there's literally there's no end to how insane these people's perspectives are on conservatives. You cannot win against the far left, so you might as well not try. So they've had such a low bar that he was the best out of them. But we have to have something better. We have to have something better than that. Now, what are they going to do? They're going to have to vote someone else in. I don't know who they're going to come up with. I don't think it's going to be better. I don't know what the answer is. I was chatting with a friend today. We were kind of brainstorming on how do you move things? How do you move that Overton window to the right? How do you actually get somewhere with this party? Because the other parties like the PPC aren't a viable alternative. So how do you actually work with what we do have? And I don't know the answer, but it's not what we're doing. So I don't think he should continue leading, even though I generally didn't mind him. And I'm sure he's a decent guy and a decent dad and all of that. But whether it's him or the people in his ear, the speech writing was terrible. Whoever was advising him on these slogans just really dropped the ball. You know, axe the tax, axe the tax, axe the tax. And yeah, he said other things, but you had to be paying attention. The average normie wasn't hearing anything else but those little axe the tax, build the homes, bring it home, bring it home. And it's just yawn. It's too much. And there's all these opportunities to speak to the very real issues in our country. And I feel like he just really missed the boat on communication. So is there someone that can do better? I hope they learn from this. I hope they fire whoever was behind the scenes making these plans and bring someone with a little more charisma in. Then if that's the case, it could have been him, but for whatever reason, he just kind of got stuck in this robotic mode, and it didn't help anything. And it's really unfortunate because even though he wasn't the answer to fix our problems, he was pretty soft on, like, I'm more of a social conservative, but it would have at least stopped the bleeding or slowed the bleeding so we could all catch our breath, bandage up some of our wounds, and go back to fight again. And now instead we're just going to drown, and it's such a shame.
You may recall in the American election, Trump was on Theo Vaughn, and that was absolutely brilliant. He was on Joe Rogan, and that went pretty well. He was on Aiden Ross.
Yeah.
He was on who else was he on?
Lex Friedman, I think. He was on with Lex Friedman.
He was on a bunch of podcasts.
Yeah, Tim Pool. Yeah, a bunch of them.
And Vance went on a bunch as well. He did great.
Yeah.
Podcasts out the wazoo. And it's been said that Poilievre's team didn't allow him to go on any podcasts. He went in front of Jordan Peterson, and that was good. That was good. It wasn't nearly enough. I mean, Poilievre should have been on every podcast, big and small, American, Canadian, fucking Australian, even every single podcast ever. He should have been. He should have been on my show. Even like he needed to be on everywhere. He was even asked to make a Rumble channel. And Canadians aren't on Rumble, aren't I? Aren't I, Pierre? Like, I mean, just Canadians in the Rumble chat. I mean, like, maybe one or two in the YouTube. Like, it really pissed me off the way that he just, I don't know, because at one point, right, he was going to have a conservative supermajority, and then much like the Maple Leafs. Halfway through the season of every hockey season, they're doing so well, and then they get to the middle, and then something happens and they suck, and they basically have to hope that their sucking it doesn't suck more than the speed at the end of the season comes, and then they can actually get into the 8th spot to make it into the playoffs, right? And so it almost seemed like that was kind of his mentality. Well, I have a 20-30 point lead. You know, and every week it's going down a couple. But you know, as long as
I've got enough to eke out the victory here.
as
Yeah.
long as election day comes, and I still, you know, we can do it. And it was this coasting bullshit, and it was kind of like how Kelly said, Canadians, we're a bunch of cunts. I mean, we call them ridings, for God's sake. Even England, the country we come from, they don't even call them ridings, because when I talk to any Brits, and they're, are you saying riding? Yes, I am. What the fuck is that? Why don't you call? We come from you, so I don't know why we do it, but they don't even do it. So we're a bunch of pretentious assholes, and I'm pretty sure Pierre started to, you know, think that he was the shoo-in, despite, you know, Carney taking the bait, and the moment Trudeau prorogued Parliament, I knew it was an evil, genius, diabolical plan, because Canadians, much like Americans, on average, are dumb. You have no
memories,
no
really
retention.
short memories. Yeah.
And the thing that should have tipped everybody off is that when Donald Trump had his mugshot, everyone was like, that's it, that sealed the deal, it's a mugshot, the first ever, this election is over. And then a week later, we were on to something else. The mugshot meant nothing. And then he was arraigned, and then he was in court, and we were like, that's it, that seals the deal. I'm like, I thought the deal was sealed with the mugshot. No, are we past that now? And then he got shot in the face, and then, oh my God, that seals the deal. Did it? No. And then he almost got shot again. Oh my, that seals the deal. Nothing seals anything. And so a 3-month prorogation, I mean, that was basically like a palate cleanser for the last 10 years.
Yep.
Like that.
No, I mean, to sum up my thought on Pierre Le Pew Poilievre, to me, he seemed like somebody trying to be too clever by a half, as opposed to just saying, Carney, your ideas suck, and here's something better we ought to be doing. He just tried to out-finesse the guy, and I'm like, no. In the middle of a prize fight, you walk to the middle of the ring, and you give the guy your best shot. If he's still standing after you lay one across his jaw, okay, the other guy's the better fighter, but give him your best shot. Don't try and dance around this guy. Just go at him. And Poilievre would never do that. Now, that kind of leads me to a couple of comments from somebody who's dropped in tonight, a gentleman named Jason Stanley Meadows. I've never seen him here before, but we're glad to have him. Couple of comments, and it's going to lead me to a question. Trump motivated diehard liberals to vote that wouldn't have voted for Pierre anyway. Pierre did a good job. Trump was a predator and sabotaged Canadian conservatives. But that leads me to Jason's last comment, because I got to ask you guys about this. 51st State was a psyop to ensure liberal victory and push Alberta into America's arms. Now, if y'all are wondering what Jason's referring to, let me pull up something and show for the sake of the audience. Give me 1 second here. This is okay, hang on. Let's try that again. And here we go.
StreamYard is StreamYarding.
Here we go. Now, in Canada, the colors are the reverse. In other words, blue represents the Conservative Party, the red represents the Liberal. Take a look at part of Saskatchewan right here where I've got the pointer. This is Alberta, and this is BC, British Columbia. Okay? Quite obviously.
Blue in my entire life.
Yeah. Now, that kind of leads me to something that I've been reading about for the past few days coming out of Alberta. Your premier up there, Danielle Smith. Premier would be basically the equivalent of governor here in America. Your premier, Danielle Smith, introduced a bill. I think it's bill number 54 that changes the referendum requirements in the province. That if the voters want to put something on the ballot for a provincial-wide vote, that this lessens the number of voters required and the number of days to get the signatures in.
Correct.
Now, and you guys, fill me in on the history here, because you guys better understand this than I do. There's been, and Shawn and I were talking about this backstage, Kelly, before you arrived, that back in the 90s, was it Quebec, was making a move to go to independence. They've tried twice and barely lost their bid for independence. I'm looking at that map of Alberta, and I'm thinking to myself, if this thing gets to a vote, Carney and the Liberal Party's got a real problem on their hands because it would. I mean, as I understand it, this bill that was introduced takes the threshold down to 10%. In other words, 10% of the voters who voted in the last election, if you can get that number of signatures within a 120-day period, you can put a referendum on the ballot for all of Alberta to vote on. Okay? Let me ask you guys a question, and whoever wants to start this off is fine by me. Given the results of the election Monday night, this thing with Alberta has been kind of simmering under the surface. Now it's like, F you, we want out of here. Now Danielle Smith is like, look, I'm not pushing for this. I'm not pushing for us to leave. I'm just going to let the people of Alberta decide. So she's kind of like, I'm not going to put the knife in, but I'll hold your cloaks while you do it. You know, one of those deals.
She's handling it brilliantly.
She is, yeah.
That's kind of what I was.
So it's so brilliant. She's probably, if anyone's going to lead the country, I would prefer her to do it. She's probably the best leader, the entire country has. And again, the way she's handling it is brilliant because she has said, I don't want Alberta to separate. I believe we should be in a federation. Alberta should stay with Canada. Meanwhile, she's lowering the threshold so the citizens can do it. It's like, okay, I know what you're doing, lady. You're fucking clever. Mad respect. And I'm at the point that if Alberta separated, I'd high five them on the way out, and then I'd be like, Quebec too, high five you on this side. Because
but what do you think about some of the things that Jason said, and also what do you think are the possibilities now that Alberta could be driven to say, yep, we're going to put this up for referendum. We're going. I mean, how strong is the possibility this could happen?
Can I dive into this? Because I'm a bit of a Western separatist myself.
Go ahead.
So this is what you have two interesting guests because you've got an Easterner and you've got a Westerner. So first of all, I'll make a note that I'm in Saskatchewan. So that one you showed with the Liberal at the top there, technically by number, Saskatchewan is actually now more conservative than Alberta, which is a first. They've always been more conservative, but they've become more urbanized. We are still very rural. It looks like we have a whole bunch of Liberal. That's actually one seat. That's one riding. We have 14 ridings in Saskatchewan. And that riding, the lines were shifted in 2022. And it was done strategically to make that go either orange or red. Traditionally, it goes back and forth between Conservative and NDP. Of course, the NDP got decimated. That being a Liberal riding is actually a really weird thing. It's a very, very sparsely populated area. Most of the people that actually live in Saskatchewan are extremely conservative. So there's actually also talks about, now we have to do a lot more work. We have very antiquated laws for referendums. They're not called the same thing, but there are groups that are working on getting the same type of vote in Saskatchewan as well. I don't know how it's going to go. We'll see. So as far as Alberta, there's been an underlying Western alienation and separation sentiment for decades. I remember going out to visit my grandfather, who was a farmer, and them talking about old Pierre Senior, at the supper table. I know people who have been part of, there's been arguments about the wheat board. There's been arguments about oil and gas. I have a friend who wrote a book on this called Wexit, the Reluctant Rebellion. And it talks about all the policies across the board that have come from the East that have pushed this sentiment. And what it feels like to many of us is like we're in an abusive relationship because everything is pushed towards the East, whether it's the policies, the voting, all of it. It's kind of like that pioneer spirit, and we're just being used as a resource colony. And we send a lot of money for equalization. We have all the oil and gas. We have a lot of the agriculture. And it's just been this terrible scene forever. So as Trudeau has ruined the country, that sentiment has kind of revamped. There's always been movements that have come and gone. It's continued to rise. And now with this, it is huge. And so what are the odds it's going to happen? I don't know. There's a few lefty areas and ridings in Alberta, but it could very well be that the vote does go through. Now, it's hard, though. It's hard to separate from Confederation. This is what makes Quebec interesting, is Quebec is part of Canada, but they're not. Like, they have different laws, everything from their lottery to, I mean, there's so much about Quebec that they just do their own thing anyway.
They didn't even sign the fucking paper.
Yeah, like they're completely, they might as well be their own country. And so, which, whatever, do your thing, right? I don't even care. But Alberta, they want to do it, and I kind of want them to do it, but I also am realistic. So I'm a separatist, but I'm realistic that I don't know it's viable. It's going to be hard to do something like that for many reasons, from dealing with currency to our First Nations population who have signed treaties to dealing with being more landlocked and so on and so on. So I don't know where it's going to go, but they're going to fight hard. Now, as far as this 51st state thing and the whole PSYOP concept, it's an interesting idea. And I've wondered this myself. Is Trump just shooting his mouth off and being a troll? Because that's what it seemed like at first. And then it seemed like maybe there's more to this. And I've wondered this myself. Is this part of when you bring Carney in, like Jason, I think his name was, said, is this sort of a strategic play to push this separation? Like, is he paying that much attention? Is it also this idea that Carney will tank our economy, tank our military, tank our sovereignty so badly that we will be crumbled and easy to pick up? Like, you wreck a house so that you can get a nice market value on it and steal it for yourself and then build it up? I don't know. And I have questioned that myself. I can't prove it. I'm not in Trump's head. What is his intention? What does he know that we don't? What's going on in the background? And I think that's a very valid question to ask. But yeah, the separatist stuff is that's a hot topic here. And in my household, where both my husband and I are both, I mean, he's got American roots way back to your beginnings. And I've got an American grandma. I've also got family in Alberta, and we're proud Saskatchewaners. We haven't been proud Canadians for years, especially since COVID. After what happened with COVID, I stopped feeling Canadian. I'm Canadian by passport only. I pay my taxes here. And beyond that, I'm a proud Saskatchewaner. I don't really care. So I would be fine with the separation. But I also know that's not going to be easy. I'd also be maybe okay with the 51st state thing, but I'd prefer to just have us do our own thing. But at this point, we are so beholden to a government thousands of kilometers away that have no concern for us at all. It really doesn't even matter. If we're just going to be ruled by someone that doesn't care about us, what difference does it make? That's kind of where I'm at, which might sound defeatist, but it's a pretty disturbing place to be. So that's my rant. I just had to get that out there. So,
Shawn, I'll put these up here and let you respond to them, and also the question of what happens with Alberta. Jason's making the point: Pierre didn't lose the election; Trump did it for them. In that Trump drove out liberals who would have otherwise voted.
Jason, I'm sure you're a wonderful person in real life, and I bet we would probably be friends, and maybe we'd get ice cream and have long walks on the beach. But that is fucking wrong, bro. It's genuinely wrong, because the thing is, Trump could literally do anything, and it shouldn't fucking matter. The person running for the prime ministership, the leader of the Conservatives, should be able to rise up to the occasion and say whatever message to shepherd the people to vote for him. And he didn't. He lost a riding that he's held for 20 years. 20 years. 10 of them was Trudeau. Like, you know, like, we can't just blame Trump. I wish Trump didn't do it. I wish Trump shut the fuck up. Sure, but he didn't. And the idea, the possibility that Trump will say something maybe smart, maybe stupid, maybe wild, this should always be on the table. And
true.
That's true.
That should always be on the. It should always be on the table. And you know, it happened. And fucking Pierre had he had a long runway, and he wasted all of it. Like, I mean, he could have burned 10, 15 points on trying to figure out what the message was, but he didn't do that. He burned through 25, almost 30-point fucking advantage, and then lost his riding by
about 5 or 6 points.
5%, 4,300 votes.
Yeah,
like Jesus. Like, Trump is interested in spheres of influence. That's why he wants Canada to be very much more into America, because right now we're looking very much into Europe, and Europe is just a bunch of cunts anyways. That's why he wants Greenland, because Greenland is really the last place you can track a Russian sub before it gets into the untraceable fucking ocean. So Trump wants spheres of influence. Russia and China, they have a sphere of influence, and Europe has their little EU. So Trump's trying to basically get all the ducks in a row, because the world is over where America runs the world. America doesn't run the world anymore. That was an anomaly once the Cold War ended. That's done now. So now Russia's a superpower. China's a superpower. Even Indonesia, which sounds odd, is a superpower in their region. So that's why Trump is interested in Canada and Greenland. And whether or not they somehow try to take Alberta, they won't, because Alberta will cozy up next to them, and they'll be nice, tight allies. There'll be no need for the 51st state.
Right.
It's gonna be America and Alberta holding hands, and that's just gonna be it. And fucking Carney has already talked about, oh yeah, maybe we'll try and shoehorn Canada into the EU. I can't even think of anything more terrifying than that.
Oh God,
that's the most dystopian thing I've ever fucking heard.
Yeah,
like it's
go full globalist, right?
Yeah, that's what he is. He's a three passport having globalist banker. Like he's anathema to Trump. Everything Trump stands for, Carney's exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Like it's wild.
Yeah, the Trump thing is interesting. I'll just post or throw a couple thoughts on that. I mean, who do you blame? This is a tricky one. Yeah, Trump can carry a certain percentage. I don't know how yet. I've decided to. I don't know what numbers to assign everyone. Yeah, Trump was partly at fault, but there's also the voters. We have to think about the voters, right? It's on the voters to pay attention to, and to also, figure out what Trump actually is versus what the media lies are. And then there's also the element of Pierre, and then there's the people behind Pierre. So it was just like a perfect storm of bad. And I can't put it all on Trump, but I also recognize, like I said earlier, I don't know what's going on in the background. So I saw him say, it's not America's first psyop. That's true. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's gone on that you find out 50 years later. But I don't know. At the end of the day, voters still have to make a decision. And I mean, I don't know. It's a tricky one. It's just a mess. Who's at fault? I don't know. It's just not good, though. At this point, we just have to figure out how to pick up the pieces and try to salvage and do something with this.
Well, that sort of brings me to my last question. And again, you guys understand your government up there. And by the way, your comments, Kelly, about, all right, here we are in the West or wherever we may be in Canada, and here's this government in the East, and they don't represent us. Well, that has shades of, in my recollections, the South saying this government in Washington, D.C. doesn't represent us. We have institutions that we want defended. You're not doing it. We will secede if you do not, whatever. Well, and again, I'm not trying to make the comparison's not completely valid, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
Let's not forget that Tea Party you guys famously threw.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A faraway government that was doing shit that people were like, I don't really like this. Like, I mean,
same idea. No, we don't. We just, as a side note, we don't have an electoral college here, so that's something that Americans need to be aware of. So when we talk about the votes and the way that the pandering is always directed towards the most densely populated eastern urban areas, we don't have an electoral college. We also don't have as much provincial autonomy as you have state autonomy. So you can have Idaho, which is completely different than California, which is completely different than Arkansas, and you all have such different laws. And then, yes, you have this centralized government that makes certain national rules that do apply. But in Canada, it's very centralized. Everything is happening out of Ottawa. So yeah, we have provincial healthcare, but it's all under the umbrella of Health Canada, and they will punish you if you don't do things their way. Everything is centralized. So we don't have an electoral college to balance out the vote. We have first past the post voting, which is a whole different ballgame. And we also don't have provincial autonomy. So when it comes to separatism, that's also a big element of why people are so mad, because we don't have any authority. So
well, let me ask you as well. Let me ask you this, and we'll bring the train into the station. All right, so you've got a minority government. How long is this going to last? In other words, I mean, Carney is going to have to rule by coalition. Under normal circumstances with your country, you guys go every 5 years between elections, unless a snap election's called for. How long can this coalition go before somebody gets fed up, pissed off, whatever, and says, screw it, we want a new election? I mean, can it last 5 years? Can Carney make it that far?
Depends who you ask. Some people think it's going to dissolve really quickly and we'll be back at the polls in a few months. I don't know if that's the case. I'm not sure.
Minority governments tend to go about 18 months. That's sort of the rule.
Really?
Is about 18 months.
Okay.
You can't really keep the wheels on them longer than that. This is an incredibly, I guess you might say, I guess this would be a strong minority because it's so close to a majority. But a government, I don't think the Liberals have had such a weak government in a long time.
True.
And so because of the nature of the NDP being decimated, and even half of the Green Party, they were decimated too. I think we only have Elizabeth May, and so it's kind of strange. I'm not sure if the Bloc made up votes, but
they lost a few to the Liberals as well, if I recall. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's kind of a different game because we have all the other ridings. So like for example, like so you look at Alberta, but then you like zoom in, and then right there you have Edmonton Center and Edmonton Strathcona. So Edmonton Center is one tiny little speck of red and all that blue, and then right next to it, Edmonton Strathcona, a little speck of orange, and you're like, wow, that's insane. And then down in Calgary is red, and so
which is crazy. It used to be cowboy country. It used to be like the Texas, the Houston kind of, I think it was, of Canada. So yeah, it's interesting how much that's shifted.
And Ontario is the same, and I'm at Southwestern Ontario, and then it's all blue, just so much blue, and then you get to like 2 of the 3 ridings of London are red. Although London Fanshawe, which used to where Fanshawe College is, normally that went NDP. That's gone conservative. So the youth came out. It's just all of the extra ridings in like Toronto and all the other areas. It's just all of those went red, and it was, I don't know. It's just
it's a weird one. Yeah, it's hard to predict because this is kind of unprecedented. So
yeah, so 18 months is the rule of thumb, but maybe these NDP individuals, maybe they're just gonna, and the one Green Party seat, maybe, they are just absolutely gonna be firm and not try and break anything up or something. Like I have no idea.
Okay.
But I fucking hope it doesn't go that long.
Well, I hear you, and believe me,
we need a mulligan. Let's do this again.
Well, you might get lucky in 18 months, brother. And Patty, I want to thank you very much for the super sticker. And I want to thank both of you, my guests, because we're, at the top of the hour, and I want to be fair to both of you that honor my commitments. Shawn, where can people find you on social media? I tell you what, I think you've got a friend here in Jason Stanley Meadows. He needs to come on your channel, get in your chat, and you two need to have a good old-fashioned conversation. Where can Jason Stanley Meadows find you on social media? Where can everybody else find you on social media? And what can they do to support your channels, my brother?
Well, I mean, he does say, "I wish our country could prosper together." So it sounds like Jason is a Canadian lad, which is great. But anyways, so you can find me on YouTube at ThirdRailify. You can find me on Rumble. You can usually find me on Rumble at ThirdRailify because I like to say naughty words, and YouTube doesn't care for me so much. But also on X, at ThirdRailify. In fact, I'm streaming on Rumble in mere minutes. So you should go there, and it will be a good time.
Okay, Kelly, I know you're not as active on social media as Shawn or myself, but if people want to follow you, get your takes on things, where can people find you? What can they do to help you out? And all that good stuff.
If I'm going to post anything, it will more likely be on YouTube, or eventually I'll get onto Rumble as well and transfer my library over there. I'm not on X very much. If I do, I go in spurts. So actually, I do have a video I'll be putting out in the next couple of days, just a chat I had with a friend of mine who used to be in Ontario and is also in Alberta, just discussing all of this craziness. So
lucky.
Yeah. Pop on by if you want. I tend to focus more on some of the more spiritual sides of things. So I did see as well Jason's last comment that he feels for Alberta, which is always nice. I know that we have supporters. I know us Western Prairie folk have supporters in the East. So I don't ever want to put that blanket out against y'all Easterners because you're great, right? So, but yeah, I feel free to follow me. Like I said, I'm not super active. We're in the process of, we just bought a house and we're going to be moving, and maybe I'll get back into it soon enough. But I've been quiet until this
Well,
your channel.
You should
keeps
get your
bringing me
ass
on.
in gear. You should, because you know you and I need to stream much more together, because this is all we hoot.
I have said you two have, and I'm not just saying this to blow smoke up either one of your pants legs. I've said this. You two have fantastic chemistry together. I would love to see you guys do some live streaming stuff, but that's
enjoyable,
entirely
yeah.
up to you two. Yeah,
I dig it. So
Yeah.
I'll actually have a proper studio. You can't see, but I am sitting amidst a chaos of boxes and madness. So I'm going to actually have a room that I can set things up in and shut the door and keep my animals out. And it's going to be amazing. So who knows? You know,
who knows?
Future's
Well,
mine.
for my part, my name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. You can find me on Rumble. You can find me on YouTube. Please subscribe to my channel. We are a going little concern. We'd like to be a going big concern. And with that, we're going to bring this train into the station. Thank you for a wonderful session of Chatting on the Porch to both my guests and the audience. You guys have been great all the way around. The energy's been fantastic. The questions, the comments, as always, are chef's kiss perfect. I'll be back this Saturday morning with Front Porch Brunch at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. In the meanwhile, go watch Shawn tonight, because he's going to be doing his thing. And oh, Lord, you know how they do their thing up in Canada. Oh, my God. Anyway.
Yeah, elbows up.
Yeah. More like lay the elbow down on you, or the smack down. Anyway, remember the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." Love you guys. I'll see you Saturday morning at 10:30. Go over to Shawn's channel and harass him. Bye-bye.